o'clock in the afternoon today, 4:30 actually right now. And I thought, why not we bring in for you a beautiful guest, Suma Varguese. She is a brilliant writer and someone who I think very highly of. If, I always say this, if someone can make you smile, someone can make you dance when you don't know how to dance. If someone can make you smile when you don't know how to do that, if someone can make you write when you don't know how to do that, then you know you've reached the right place. Well, Suma Varguese is that person for me who taught me how to write for the first time. And I mean it when I say taught me how to write for the first time, because I didn't know what that meant. Even today, I am sometimes very scared, though I do write very well, but that fear that is there that I have to master. So over to Suma Varguese. Namaste, Suma.
Namaste, Anu.
Could you just tell my guests who you are? And it's not a philosophical question. It's like saying, what do you really do? What do you really do?
So what I really do in life is I write. I identify myself as a writer more than any other job identity. And I've been fortunate enough to be the editor of two magazines, Society, as well as Life Positive magazine. And all told, I have 40 years of experience behind me as a writer and editor and author as well, because I've written a couple of books, Traveling Light and Traveling Lighter. And I'm just finished, and my third book, 50 Life Lessons, is waiting on the anvil for COVID to take itself off so that it can be published. Hay House is publishing it. It's all ready. We've gone through the whole process. It's waiting to be printed, but we're choosing the right time.
Wow.
So that's just who I am in the world of work.
So when you say the right time, when was it the right time that you actually became a writer?
Long story, Anu. If you have the patience for it, I'll tell you. Well, I think it began when I was about 8 and discovered books. And having discovered books, I kind of started gobbling them up very greedily, I must say. I used to just love reading. And also, I think it kindled my imagination hugely. So I'm really grateful. It enriched me so much and I really enjoyed. I think there were times when I had friends coming and badgering me to see a movie and I'd say, no, I want to read. So, it was like that. And I also loved words. I absolutely adored words. And every time I learned a new word, I'd feel so excited. Like, I don't know how old I was when I discovered the words transparent, but I still remember how excited I was by that and how I rolled it in my tongue and, the images I could see transparent, it was so lovely. And I think that's how, I just, through that, I learned a lot of words. Without any effort on my part, because I loved words so much, I accumulated a rather big vocabulary, I would say. And I was a good writer. I still remember that my English teacher would usually send my essays around to some classes to have a look at, etc., etc. So all the signs were there that I would be that I should get into writing. But then I lived in a very tiny township in Orissa, a place called Sunabeda. And we didn't know anything at all about what the outside world was. We didn't know what we should do. To work. And if anybody asked us what we should do, we would always say engineering or medicine, because we didn't know what else there was. But it so happened that one day a friend of mine was upset with her mother. And she was complaining to me about it, but also at the same time feeling a little guilty. So eventually she said, it's not that I don't love her. And I said, no, of course you'd love her. It's just that you're not blind to her faults. But she found that a very tactful way of putting things. And she said, you should be a writer. And I think that's when the penny dropped. And I said, okay, yeah, I could do that. And coincidentally enough, my third sister, Leela, got married to a journalist around that time. That was, I think, when I was about 16 or so. And that's when I said, oh, okay, there are things like newspapers that come to my house. And even we used to have the Illustrated Weekly and Reader's Digest. And there are people who write for all these things, and why shouldn't I do it? So that's when, I got clear in my head that that's what I'm going to do for a livelihood. I don't think I ever thought about anything else. I don't think I had too many talents either. So the decision was pretty clear.
So you actually paint, and I've heard you. It's not just in your writing, even when you're talking. For the first time, I'd ever heard someone saying that the tree looks manicured. And I stood there and I said, what? The tree looks manicured. How does that happen? I'd never thought of using these kind of words around anything like a tree. You do that. Like really, like it's very mesmerizing for me to sit down, watch you do that, like literally like a magician putting the words around the story.
So honestly, I really don't know. I wouldn't be able to say. I dare say that I did a little bit of work on this talent or whatever you want to call it in some other lifetime. So many things that come naturally to you, you don't really have an explanation for. But I'm grateful. I'm enormously grateful, that I am able to, it's a modest talent. I wouldn't put myself among the immortals at all. But for whatever it is worth, I'm very grateful that I have the capacity to express myself in a way that other people, find nice. So very grateful. Thank you, God.
Too, because I wouldn't have learned that from you otherwise. Can you your childhood, Suma, and just give me a peep into what little Suma was like even before she became a writer, even before she became aware that she could ever, choose writing or any of that. Who was that Suma?
Oh, well, actually, she was a pretty big brat and highly sensitive, highly overly sensitive. And someone I still remember. I mean, if a teacher sort of said "boo" to me, I would run for my life. I was that thing, and my poor mother would have to regularly go to the teacher and say, "Teacher, just be a little more gentle with her because she's very, sensitive." So that is the kind of person I was, very, very emotional as well. And, anything and everything would get blown up in my mind to such huge dimensions. So it was growing up was, I mean, I was very fortunate that I had wonderful parents, a huge brood of sisters. I was the youngest, so obviously much cherished and loved. But nevertheless, growing up or childhood was a traumatic time, just even so for anybody like me, I think, because you go through so many massive emotions and you don't really know how to handle these emotions. So, but that apart, it was also a beautiful, idyllic childhood, I must say. Growing up in Sunabeda was a fabulous experience because it was a township. It was my father used to work for HAL, and living in a township is a very different experience. It's like a huge extended family where everybody knows everybody. And we had and we all of us went to the same school, and we knew each other inside out. We would all go for each other's birthday parties. We'd spend time in each other's houses, and we'd spend the night also in each other's. It was wonderful. I mean, now living in Bombay, such a life seems so amazing. But that was how we lived, and all the aunties were our aunties. And I mean, it was, everybody looked out for you. Everybody was there to such an extent that when I left Sunaveda, I didn't know how to deal with strangers because I had not met a stranger. How do you deal with a stranger? How much do you smile? What do you say? These were acquired skills for me because I had not met strangers.
You must have been, you are a lucky person to have had that life where you hadn't met a stranger.
Yeah.
So just take me back to a little bit about your dad and mom, because I always feel that we are not us. We are the extensions of our generation standing behind us.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. And I would say that I really was very fortunate in the parents that I did get. They were both very allowing. They were extremely allowing. Anu, that I chose not to get married. And this was in the 70s, and, I grew up in the 70s, really. And that was a time, I think, when most girls didn't even have an option. They'd have been packed off and got married off, whether they liked it or not. But I was very fortunate, and that my parents didn't impose their wishes on us. They always abided by it. And even becoming a writer or a journalist, I remember my father was pretty keen that I get into medicine, which I was absolutely adamantly not in favor of. But in any case, poor old chap packed me off to Chennai, I remember, wanting me to do the entrance exam for the Vellore medical college. Predictably, I think I got a nice big zero. But there, and then my mother pulled up my father. She said, look, she doesn't want to do this. Leave her alone, let her do what she wants to do. And then to my father's great credit, thereafter, they didn't come in my way at all. I was free to do whatever I wanted to do. I think I was really fortunate to have such liberal parents at every given time. And I think the other beautiful thing about both my parents were that they were so value based. My goodness. I mean, I think for me, that was the biggest takeaway, the thing that I've got from both of them was such, strong values. I mean, neither of them, we were six sisters, and my father's salary was exceedingly modest, being a government official. Money was always scarce, always scarce. But these two people were not enamored of money. They never, they never taught us to chase money. It was amazing, actually, beautiful. They were so beyond it, and that was so beautiful. And honesty, honesty was I still remember many years ago, many years later, when my mother was living alone after my father passed away. I had gone on a holiday to Vishakhapatnam, where she was living. And we went to a shop. Vizag tends to be terribly hot. So we were walking. We went to a shop, must have been about 1 kilometer away. Bought whatever we wanted to buy. And then we were walking back. And suddenly my mother said, hello, he's given me 4 annas extra. That was a time when we had 4 annas. And you will not believe, Anu, she insisted that we go back and give this man his 4 annas. And I was saying, do we really have to do it? She said, yeah. But her having done that has always remained in my mind. This is what we learn from our parents. I mean, this sort of honesty and tremendous values of hard work and integrity, caring, selflessness. Some of those letters that my father wrote to my sisters when they were in college, or even to me, so touching in retrospect, when you know that they didn't have enough money and it was so expensive to put us in hostels, he would still be telling them, make sure you have enough milk, make sure you have this, you have that. And my parents sacrificed everything for us. They had nothing. My mother has never seen a film. Of course, later she did, but during the growing up days when they had to raise us, going to see a film was an unaffordable luxury for my mother. She never had a watch, never owned a watch, because all these things they gave up, their only focus was on our education. So,
wow.
Beautiful souls, God bless them all. I thank God every day for the fact that I was born to these people, to this couple.
I mean, even when I think about it, and it feels as if, and I heard someone saying that to me a little while ago, in fact, just an hour back, I was telling her, I want freedom. And she looked into my eyes and said, if you ask for freedom, then it can't be freedom. If you ask permission for freedom, it can't be freedom. Why
Beautiful.
are you taking what is due to you?
Beautiful.
Freedom can only come in when you don't take permission, when you do what you want to do. And I think in true sense, your parents gave you that freedom where you didn't have to ask that permission.
I think so, Anu. And quite frankly, I couldn't have done without it. Because I think one of my deepest drives is independence. I cannot bear to be told what to do. I cannot bear to do things the way others want me to do. I just have to do it my way. I just have to do it my way. Therefore, I think if I had parents who tried to control me, I don't know what would have happened to me.
Wow. Or if you had tried to control yourself.
If I had tried to control myself, yeah. You mean suppress myself? What do you mean by control?
I truly feel that you allowed your energies to flow.
Huh.
Spoke about in 70s that you took a decision not to get married. That's calling.
Yeah. Yes, very true. I was actually, as I say, very independent minded. Even at the age of 14, I had decided I didn't believe in God. And I came from a very, very orthodox Syrian Christian family where you don't jolly well don't believe in God. I mean, the idea is if you say things like that, God will strike you dead. Some lightning will come and you'll die. So I still remember, I didn't dare tell a soul, okay, that I'd stopped believing in God. But in my mind, I was very clear that, this whole business of God making the world in 7 days is not compatible with Darwin's theory. And I'd quietly let go of that whole thing. But for days, I was so terrified, that some lightning stroke will knock me dead.
Thank God that's not true. Nothing knocked you dead. You're fine. You're there with us. So Suma, take me through this journey, which talked about independence, talked about freedom. Uh, what really motivated you to stay on that path? Because it's very easy to want something, but I don't see people taking any actions towards it, including myself. I'll be guilty of it at times when I say I want to do something, and then I'm so worried about what people will think.
Of
And
course.
I'm guilty of that at times.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Get that freedom and independence for yourself and not worry about the world. And it's not just about marriage, it's about many other decisions that you've taken in your life. So, how did you do that?
It's not been a journey of a step or two. I think I would say it's been a huge process, and it has it has unfolded. But I think one of the things that happened to me is that I came away to college when I was 16. I was in Sophia College, hostel, etc. When I was 16, and therefore I was freed of my parental influence at a very young age. Thereafter, I think I started making my own decisions. And I still remember, I had this very, very dear friend called Lopa. And we would often, I would often go to a house and we'd go, the family there used to be a picnic spot they used to go to. I would go wherever Lopa went. I was literally part of the family. So often, Lopa would say, oh, we have to go to the sea. We have to ask, my mother for permission, my father for permission. And I feel so surprised because by then we must have been 19, 20. And I say, wow. For me, the idea that I have to ask my parents for permission for this or that, maybe because I hadn't lived with them for such a long time, simply didn't arise, you know. So I think that was one of the ways, that was one of the reasons why I became someone who could make her own decisions. But that wasn't, but I was very confused. In all this, I can't say that it was absolutely kind of a easy journey. For the longest time, I was very confused. I told you, I know also I went through this depression, etc. I didn't know who I or what I was. So I struggled. I knew what I didn't like. I knew what I didn't want. I mean, being someone who was very idealistic, I still found I was never drawn to things like communism, feminism, blah, 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 blah. I had friends who were passionate about the subject, but it simply didn't impact me. It didn't touch me. So all these isms sort of, I was just not interested in any of them. But so in a way, I knew what I didn't want, but I didn't know what I wanted. And then, it all boiled down to that fabulous spiritual awakening I had in 91. And once I understood life, so the crux of it would basically be that I understood that, really happiness was the thing was, there was nothing worth living in life except for happiness. To be happy was the main, thing about life. And I also realized being happy is not a question of, making yourself happy. You can only be truly happy when you focus on the happiness of others. So I learned all these things and it clarified everything for me. And thereafter, then, of course, I was very, very sure that nobody is going to tell me what I should be doing in life because I will live my life the way I want to live my life. Because for me, my whole focus in life is to learn to become truly happy, the way I had been for a year when that awakening had lasted. So thereafter, I think nobody and nothing could tell me what to do that didn't, sort of correlate with my value system or with my priorities or where I wanted to go. And yeah, thereafter, I think I would say I became the independent person I was in my head, but unable to actually say it to too many people because I was also very shy and, very underconfident. But thereafter, there was no question of anybody telling me what I should be doing or how I should be leading my life. I was very sure that, yeah.
What is happiness according to you? How do you
Well,
know that you're happy? How do you know you've reached there? How do you know this is true happiness? That there is
yeah.
happiness standing at the end of the road, and maybe there when you reach, you might just feel that what you had before was just a reflection of some happiness. How do you know for sure that this is happiness?
Well, again, it's a longish answer that I'll be giving. See, basically, the first thing you have to realize is you can't be happy by trying to make yourself happy. Because what happens when we try to be happy? And most of us are in this process. We all want to be happy. That's what we are all, everything that we do is because we want to be happy. So what happens then? So we tell ourselves, I want to be happy. And then, maybe your spouse does things that make you unhappy. And then we say, but dash it, I want to be happy and this individual is making me unhappy. Okay? Or your kids act up. They do things you don't want them to do. Maybe they take a career you don't want them to career, whatever it may be, or, or
They
they're hard to handle.
want them to get married to. You never.
Right. Whatever it is. So again, it's like, oh my God, I want to be happy, but these kids are not allowing me to be happy. So what happens is when we start pursuing individual happiness, we get into conflict with everybody and everything. Or, you see, or something, or life sends you an ailment and said, I was just about to be happy, but now this ailment has come up now and I can't be happy. This God is unfair and God is this and God. This is how we lead our lives. We are always in conflict with whatever is happening because we have a notion in our head that personal happiness is what I should be after. There is no happiness to be got out of that. So how can I truly be happy? When I can focus on the happiness of the others, which means what? Mothers know it best, Anu. You're a mother, so you will understand. It really means that if you've got, somebody has given you a laddu, and you feel, I will not have the laddu because I'll be so much happier to see my child eating the laddu. That's a genuine thing, that the happiness you get from watching your child eat the laddu is much more than the happiness you'd have got by eating the laddu. So if we just expand that thought, and it's like, if somebody wants to read a book which you have been dying to read, I mean, you've just got hold of the book and somebody says, give me the book. And you'll give him or her the book because the happiness you get from that person's happiness is much more than the happiness you'd have got from reading your book. So it's a very high state. What comes in the way, why none of us can get there very easily is this thing called the ego. The ego. The ego is the thing that's always putting us one against the other. Because the ego is essentially, what you'd call a separate identity, an entity that is separate from everybody and everything else. And that entity feels that it is all alone, it is insecure, and it's always trying to look after itself, defend itself. So we are all basically in that state of egoism where we can only think of our happiness. We can't go beyond that because we are so insecure. But as we work on ourselves, and that's what this whole spiritual path is, as we keep working on ourselves, understanding ourselves better, accepting ourselves better, the ego becomes a little thinner, a little thinner, a little thinner. And then goodness knows how many lifetimes later or how many decades later, there actually comes a time when the ego drops. And the minute the ego drops, then that whole sense of separation drops and we realize we are truly one with everybody. And then there is anyway, there's no separate self anymore. You're just one with everybody. And then prioritizing the happiness of the other is just a natural phenomenon. So it's a long journey, Anu. I've not got there as yet, but I have never stopped trying. I mean, my whole life thereafter, after the 91, I put everything else aside, whatever else. And I had no other goals except this, attaining this space.
Wow. But don't you think the foundation came from your village where you were, where people, they were no strangers?
I think so. You could be right. Absolutely.
Everybody's friend, and everybody was doing things for the neighbor's child.
Yeah.
You didn't have
Absolutely.
to do that bit.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that, but it's entirely possible.
Wow. Wow. So you were given the right environment right then, right back in your childhood. Can you take us through one of the letters maybe your dad wrote to you when you were in the hostel, and that has kind of left an impression in your heart even today? Like that was a special something that he wrote, maybe a sentence, maybe something that left a complete impact on you.
I have no such memory. I don't remember. I remember reading the letters that my father wrote my sisters, but the letters he wrote me, I think I bundled them away somewhere, but I don't remember anything particularly, that touched me. But what is it that my father? I have to here share that my relationship with my father wasn't of the very best. I resonated much more with my mother, you know. And my mother has been a huge influence in my life. I would say
I
is a
think she
huge
would
source of
what
inspiration.
you feel that was very special for you.
I think many, many, many things that my mother said really, has had such a huge impact on me. Once I remember something had happened when I was editor of Life Society magazine, and there was some fellow who was issuing some threats against me and the writer. So I was new to all this. So I came home and I was all agitated and I said, let's move away from this house. Let's go to my sister's house. There's this threat. And so calmly, my mother said, there is no forest thick enough to run away from fear. And I was like, ooh. And I also I remember that many years ago, maybe sometime in the 80s or late 80s, I was given a job offer to go to Dubai, and I was pretty excited about it, I would say. And then my mother, she said, what do you want to go there? And I told my mother, you'll make a lot of money and all that stuff. And my mother said, what do you want so much money for? You're not even married. What do you need so much money for? And, and I was saying, wow, yeah, look at this lady, not at all, besotted by money and so matter-of-factly just telling me, what do you need money for? And I also, in my own experience of myself, I have never been focused on money. Never in all my life have I been focused on money. So, but I was delighted and thrilled that my mother, also felt similarly. It sort of gave me permission to never have to worry about money.
What an independence that is, if you don't worry about money.
Yeah. I think so. I really felt, and that's one of the reasons, many of the reasons that many of the decisions I've taken, I took because I was free of that thing about money. Like leaving Society magazine and joining Life Positive, and it was a total startup, total startup, and I had to let go of a very prestigious editorship, and there was a car that came along with it and a house that came along with it, and I had to let go of all of that. I had no worries at all. I was least bothered because I was completely committed to doing that kind of work, and I was done with mainstream journalism. So it was very easy for me I never pined for it even one day.
Wow.
So it was because I was, and I'm sure it was the upbringing, that helped. So
imagine telling someone, "Bacha, money is not important.
Yeah.
What's important is your happiness."
Yeah.
Imagine hearing from your mom,
yeah.
You're going to run with this fear.
Yeah.
No place to go.
Yeah.
Be with yourself. Those are the biggest learnings that anybody can give to their own child. I salute your mom. Wherever
she was a tremendously wonderful human being, Anu. I mean, I would honestly, not that my father was any less, but I had issues with my poor father. I actually only reconciled the relationship post his death, But my mother, I think, was always this amazingly nurturing, unconditionally loving presence in my life, who has been of tremendous inspiration to me. She's been a huge source of inspiration to me.
So tell me, Suma, how did you begin? Because you were from a big magazine, then into a startup. And then when you left, I mean, I don't think you've ever left Life Positive, but when you own journey, what did you start doing then?
See, all these decisions, including leaving Society, joining Life Positive, becoming editor of Life Positive, starting the Zen workshops, leaving Life Positive, they were all taken in obedience with my inner voice. I never did any of them, coming from the head at all. I've been fortunate in that, my inner voice has always guided me. I still remember that, before I quit Society. I mean, it's a long journey. Actually, I had started working for another magazine in the Magna Group because my publisher became aware that I was, nurturing and cherishing this idea of writing about connectivity, about spirituality, personally. So he agreed to have me edit a magazine because he was just a wonderful soul, another huge inspiration in my life, actually. But unfortunately, the advertising people told him that it's not going to work out. We will not get any advertisements. So we decided to close. It was decided that that magazine will not see the light of day. And that's when I decided to quit Society and move forward, So what was this? I remember after I was sure I'm not going to join mainstream. And after I gave in so I decided, told Mr. Hira I would be leaving Life Society. And then I said, what shall I do with myself? And suddenly I had this vision of freelancing. Now I'm seasoned journalist. I know freelancers never get money. They're never paid, at least at that point. Things may be different now. Nevertheless, I saw so many possibilities, and that's how my inner voice guides me, my intuition. I see many possibilities. So without worry, I said, okay, no, it'll be fine. I'm not going to, otherwise I was thinking maybe I'll look at the big books division in Magna something. I said, no, I'm going to go into freelancing. And then that very night, Parveen Chopra calls me and said, there's a magazine I'm starting, and I need somebody in Bombay. It was like a miracle. I mean, the biggest miracle of my life, I would really honestly say. And I couldn't get over the fact that God didn't allow me to worry about it, even for a night. Even before I slept one sleepless night, I was kind of rescued and just sort of, taken in God's arms. So it was a miracle for me the way I joined Life Positive. And every subsequent major decision has been essentially from the inner voice. And therefore, I would say it gave me a lot of courage and enabled me to do these things. So, leaving Life Positive was also, the workshops were doing well. And I also realized that being this independent kind of person that I had always wanted to be my own boss. So this, Zen Good Writing helped me there. But I also realized simultaneously that my time with Life Positive was done and that I have to move on and let somebody else take over. So both these realizations came simultaneously. And that's when I left Life Positive.
That's never easy.
No, it was never easy, but at the same time, that this is what you're supposed to do. So it happens. It's much, much easier. Although as much as I loved Life Positive, I didn't, feel too bad about leaving it because I was also excited about this new journey. And I also felt it was right, that this decision I'd taken was the right one, not just for me, but for everyone concerned.
Wonderful. So take us through a little bit of journey of your workshops. And I was there for the first time.
Yeah, you were one of the participants of my very first workshop.
And
you've been with me since. No, that's now almost 6 years or 5.5 years or something like that.
Here I've been very notorious.
But your presence has been there. And you've been coming with me for all those retreats and things.
Absolutely. So take me through that journey. And I remember we were having this conversation in Nainital when we were actually on writer's retreat. And I can tell people what I got out of it. So when you have ideas, but you don't know how to express them, and the
Ideas is what now?
I had a lot of ideas in my brain.
Ideas, oh sorry,
Know how to express them. And I could have used a paintbrush to express them because that's an easier place for me. I can talk like this and express because that's very easy for me. But I didn't want to take an easy path. I wanted to do something that I didn't think I could do. And you really helped me out there. The biggest lesson that I learned from you at that time was when I was almost giving up and you sat down and said, but you know something, you can write. Somebody can always edit the book, but write unfiltered. So you are helping so many people like me who may have everything here, may have everything in their heart, but don't know how to put it on the paper. What did that mean for you when you're running? You're not just running a magazine, you're not just editing an article, you're editing human beings now and bringing a life to them or to their language and expression which never existed before. What does that mean to you, and what was that journey like, Suma, for you?
It's really been a beautiful journey. I mean, it's really a beautiful, beautiful journey. And every day I thank God for putting me on it. Because, one thing I realized, I absolutely adore connecting with people one on one. I just adore it. As much as I love writing, and I'm never, ever not going to be a writer. And, the intellectual satisfaction of that is one thing. I realized I need more than one kind of satisfaction. And I realized I also needed an emotional satisfaction. And that is what I'm getting through my workshops. It's just so rewarding for me to be spending time with people, and giving them whatever it is that God has given me. And I really feel deeply privileged to be able to support people in the way that you talk about. I feel so happy to do that because, one thing I understood after starting this workshop is everybody wants to write. I wasn't aware of that. I was really not aware of that, and I'm deeply touched by that. Because I think self-expression is something everyone deserves to have, and if I can support people in that, I feel, I couldn't ask for anything better. And one of the main reasons why I started holding these workshops is because I also realized that, unlike, say, the time when I was growing up, or even 14, 15 years earlier, people did not have access to the public domain. You either you waited for a magazine or a newspaper to publish what you did, or you write a book or something like that, and that was it. You really didn't have access otherwise to the public domain. Whereas now the whole world and his brother can, go on to Facebook or Insta or WhatsApp or whatever else, or start a blog or start a website, or even publish a book on their own without waiting for a publisher to pick it up. There's so much freedom just now available to people. And I am someone who believes strongly in self-empowerment. I don't like hierarchies. Probably that's the kind of person I am. I detest hierarchies. I detest authoritarianism. I detest people trying to control everybody else. If I had my way, I think I would persuade and allow everybody to be free. So this is one way I felt, why should journalists have all the power? Why should the media have all the power? Why can't each of us express ourselves the way we are meant to? And that is that's the main, actually speaking, apart from the fact that it's a good way of earning a living, but the far bigger reason is this is why I started it, to enable people to express themselves.
Isn't expression
opportunity? Yes?
Isn't expression like God?
Like God, yes, absolutely. It's you out there, and you are adding something to the what shall I say, to the whole world knowledge or world expression. You're adding something, and without you adding it, that is incomplete. So it's like each of us has something to add to this whole world expression, and we should add. I feel that so strongly.
when you were talking, it felt like everyone is allowed to or explore what the expression is and add to the rainbow of life.
Yes,
And
totally, Anu.
it felt that you are saying, I'm going to help people to give them the voice. And and if only you have that voice and the expression, then you can say the things that you want to say with love, with with being firm. You don't have to be screaming, and you don't have to be holding it inside your belly.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, you
that's
know,
that's amazing what you're doing. Can you tell my audience where can they connect with you and how you're doing the workshops right now? Nobody's meeting anybody. So
yeah, so it used to be physical until, of course, COVID gave us all a nice rap on our knuckles and sent us home to think about what we're doing wrong. So thereafter, I started holding these online workshops, and I was really delighted. I think there are many, many advantages to the online workshops. To start off, I was wondering whether it would be as effective as physical, but what I find is it is equally effective, and it has some advantages that the physical doesn't have. One is, that I'm able to reach out to anybody in every, anybody from anywhere in the world, which certainly was not possible in the physical workshop. And, the other beautiful thing is that everyone's sitting at home and, doing their thing. I mean, I don't think it has ever been possible. Otherwise, to go for a physical workshop, you have to plan it all out. You have to take this whole day out. If you've got responsibilities, you've got to, manage all of this, and then you step out. Here, it's like 1 minute you're sitting and washing dishes, and the next minute you're sitting and listening, to somebody teach you. So it's so integrated, the way we're leading our lives just now. So I think it's just becoming much more easier for people to pick, to get knowledge right now. So I found that people were just as receptive, and that I was just as effective, even on on online. And I was also able to offer them things that I was never able to earlier. Like one of the things I've started doing is started inviting some of my writer friends to talk to my participants for about half an hour, giving them their own favorite tips. That's such a value addition, for these guys. And it's become something these guys really look forward to. So many other things I found I was able to work better with WhatsApp. I was, instead of everything being on, in the 2 hours, I was able to tell them to write exercises and put it on WhatsApp, so that there was much more space. I mean, I feel I'm giving them so much more time than I was able to give the physical workshop. So it's honestly very satisfying, even on online, you
yeah,
know.
we just have to put that idea that it should not be like this outside, and
Uh,
it just kind of falls into place.
Yeah, you've been doing the same, and you're doing these amazing interviews. So so many things you've been able doing.
Yeah.
So you also must have experienced it as a very enriching.
I experienced that I was able to, for once, reach out to my friends from across the world. And though physical workshops was a very private affair, I felt that I could get into people's home, which was a very private space, and the private affair and the private space kind of came together. And that meant a lot for me at that point.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. The last question that I have on my mind, could you explain that what is your book about, which is going to be published, and the other two books that are published? If you can just give people brief of what that is about, where can they find the other books if they want to go and read it, where they can go and purchase it. Uh, Again, this is not about the money. This is about understanding that there is a tool there. There is something over there that you guys can go and get it. So, Suma, please.
Yeah, actually, Anu, I do feel that these books I've written have been quite valuable as far as people are concerned, because many people have come forward to tell me, that book, I keep it by my bedside, and every time I have some problem, I pick it up, and whatever page I read gives me my answers. Many people, not just one or two, many people have told me that. And I am rather ashamed of myself because somehow I have not actually promoted either of these books as I feel I should have, because they are helping and supporting people. So thank you very much for asking me this question. And I really would, would recommend these two books, not because I've written them, but because many people have got value out of it. So these books are available on Amazon. They're also available through Life Positive. And, I would suggest that you check it out on either of these. You can go to the Life Positive website, www.lifepositive.com, and you can access it, or you can access it on Amazon. They're very reasonably priced also, because that's also a value for me. And I hope you'll get value out of it just the way other people have. As far as the third, yes?
The titles of the books again.
Yeah, so the first one is Traveling Light. And these are all compilations of my column in Life Positive, which was in itself pretty popular, I would say. So Traveling Light, and the second one was Traveling Lighter. So they're both compilations, and one follows from the other. And I think people have got quite a lot of value out of it. Now, the third one that I've written, 50 Life Lessons, actually I decided to do it after I turned 60. It was a way of commemorating my 60th birthday. And, I was thinking to myself that, okay, at 60, I mean, what is the wisdom I have to offer? And this book basically has all the wisdom I've ever learned, I've ever understood, accumulated over life. Again, I would say it seems to be a valuable book. I mean, the editor, the lady who edited my book, Ruchita, with a lot of courage, I mean, as scared as I was, I kind of, gathered my courage, and I told her, Ruchita, tell me, you've read the whole book, now what do you think of it? So she said, Suma, I think it's mandatory reading for anyone who wants to know themselves better. So that made me feel, all writers are basically self-doubtful creatures, and I'm not an exception. So that made me feel like, okay, I mean, okay, someone totally outside the whole thing would still find it worthwhile to read the book. And then I got my friend also to edit it, a friend of mine called Shalini, got her to edit it as well. And again, with a lot of trepidation, I asked her, so Shalini, tell me now, what do you think? Give me the truth. What kind of a book is it? So she also felt similarly, that she said it's a very valuable book, and I've learned so much from reading it. And I'm very, happy that I was able to edit it. So these two people saying it, that makes me feel, okay, it really will have something to offer the reader. And that it's going to come out. It's not yet out. I'm going to make a bit of a hoopla when it comes out. So I hope the world will know when it's out. Just watch this space.
Absolutely. If people have to reach you, how do they reach you? Do you have a phone number that they can reach you on? Do you have a website? If they want to connect to your workshops, how do they reach you?
Yeah, actually, my website is in a bit of a shambles, so I will not be able to recommend that. But my number is 98190-30781. I'll say it again, in fact. 98190-30781. And my email is Suma, and I'm going to spell out Varughese because that's a convoluted spelling. So Suma is S-U-M-A. Varughese is V-A-R-U-G-H-E-S-E @gmail.com. So Suma Varguese @gmail.com. Feel free to call me, or send me a WhatsApp message, or send me an email. You can also check me out on Facebook. Just type this convoluted spelling of my name. I think you should be able to get to me. And I usually post my workshops on Facebook regularly.
Wonderful. If you need to connect with me, Dr. Anu Mehta, you can connect to me at 99308-98116. I repeat my number again, 99308-98116. Thank you so much, Suma.
Thanks a lot, Anu. Lovely to talk to you. I really enjoyed myself. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. So see you again, maybe sometime later.
Oh, sure. Definitely. Always excited to talk to you. Thank you, Anu.